Speak out of order.
Action. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, just minutes ago I introduced a privileged resolution that would require the House Committee on Standards of Official Conduct to make public information gathered for its probe into the relationship between earmarks and campaign contributions. In a report released earlier this month, the Standards Committee concluded that it could show evidence of a quid pro quo regarding the relationship between earmarks and campaign contributions. The committee exercised its authority under its own rules to release information gathered by the Office of Congressional Ethics, but released nothing more than a summary of its own findings. According to one media source, quote, "The committee report was 5 pages long and included no documentation of any evidence collected or any interviews conducted by the committee, beyond a statement that the investigation included extensive document reviews and interviews with numerous witnesses." I think it's fair to ask what the Standards Committee did regarding this investigation. We know the Standards Committee reviewed documents gathered by the Office on Congressional Ethics. What were these documents? We're also told that the Standards Committee interviewed numerous witnesses. Who were they? We know that the OCE has no subpoena power. It cannot compel cooperation from whom it investigates. Let me give an example of where that might have been useful to have some follow-up information from the Standards Committee. Page 17 of the report notes that the OCE had reason to believe that a witness withheld information. It also notes that many remaining former PMA employees refused to consent to interviews. In addition, it noted that the OCE was unable to obtain any evidence within PMA's possession. I think it's reasonable to ask whether the Standards Committee issued subpoenas or otherwise sought cooperation from these reluctant witnesses. It appears they did not. Perhaps what is most troubling about this investigation is that the Standards Committee concludes that while they could find no evidence of a quid pro quo between campaign contributions and earmarks, there is a widespread perception among campaign contributors and earmark recipients that such a quid pro quo exists. It should be noted that the, quote, perception or appearance has been sufficient grounds for admonishment of a member of Congress by the Standards Committee as recently as 2004. Yet despite finding that there is a widespread appearance of impropriety, the Standards Committee provides no guidance to members of Congress as to how they might avoid such an appearance. The existence of such a perception, I might add, inures to the benefit of members of Congress and their campaign committees. I've long advocated for a change to the Standards Committee's current guidance regarding earmarks and campaign contributions and have introduced legislation to this effect. House rules already require members who earmark funds to certify that they and their families have no financial interest in the organization receiving earmarked dollars. Yet the Standards Committee states that campaign contributions do not constitute financial interest. Classifying campaign contributions as financial interest would go a long way toward dispelling the widespread perception of a quid pro quo and would do much to lift the ethical cloud hanging over this body. As an aside, while we're updating guidance from the Standards Committee, we should certainly update the recent guidance implying that members of Congress who, for example, earmark money for a freeway off-ramp next to property they own, thereby inflating the value of this property, are not in violation of House rules as long as they are not the, quote, sole beneficiaries, unquote, of such a rise in value. Such a standard does not pass the test of smell or laughter. When behavior that is condoned by this body lends itself to a widespread perception of impropriety, we have an obligation not only to change the behavior, but to change the rules that police and govern such behavior. Mr. Speaker, we owe this wonderful institution far more than we're giving it. The widespread perception of a dependent relationship between earmarks and campaign contributions carries no partisan advantage. The cloud that hangs over this body rains on Republicans and Democrats alike, and we will all benefit when this cloud is lifted. I yield back the balance of my time.